Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Thursday Roundtable. I'm so excited to have you on. We're going to be letting everybody into the room right now. My name is E.R. Wolf. I'm one of the co-founders here at Elify.
Well, hello, everybody.
Excited to go through today's topic. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to be admitting everybody into the room, and we'll be admitting people as we go along. So as part of this Thursday Roundtable, I do want this to be interactive for those of you who've joined us today. If you do have questions, if you have things you want to cover, if you have comments or anything else to add to the community here, we want you to join in. So there's a chat option if you've joined us live on the Zoom. If you're watching in YouTube on the live, you can go ahead and throw down some comments. We'll try to get those answered as well. But there is a chat section in the Zoom, and there is a reactions. If you actually want to come forward, be one of the speakers or get added into the conversation, go ahead and use that reactions to raise your hand. Super excited for today's topic because I think we've all maybe even experienced this recently, and we're going to be talking about really three things, and they all go hand in hand. And those three things are leveraging landing pages. And we've been talking about landing pages ad nauseum for a long time. Hopefully, you know how to build your landing pages using Shuffle. And then we're going to be talking about QR codes. And then last, we're going to be talking about near-field communication technology. So all three of these are extremely powerful tools that you can be using in your business. And connecting with people, sharing information, all of that type of stuff. And I think that's the power of everything. The power of digital technology allows you to create a presence on the internet that is working for you 24/7 that your customers can interact with. This started all the way back in 1990s, right? I in fact saw a little clip just recently that got shared over to me, and it was a conversation of Bill Gates sitting on the David Letterman show, and they were talking about technology and the internet. And this was in the early 90s, guys. So none of social media exists, nothing else existed. There were a few places that were building websites. And the comment that Bill Gates made is, it's so fascinating because people are doing digital publication. They're publishing things online, and it'll be interesting to see what that evolves into. And the question is, are you publishing anything online right now? And if so, what are you publishing and how are you leveraging it to your benefit? Because there are so many companies out there that have created websites, landing pages, sales funnels. I know we lean in a lot into digital business cards and all of this as a benefit of you being able to connect and get in front of your customers, your existing customers, your potential customers, etc. And there's so much power that comes behind that. When you publish digitally, as I mentioned earlier, it's an evergreen. It sits up there and it does work for you even when you're sleeping. And I learned this early on in early 2000s when I first got online, is that we could create a landing page or a website. We could have that website operating for us 24/7. And all we had to do was get eyeballs to go to our website. And based on the goal of those pages, allow that traffic to go through and take an action. And I know we spent a lot of this week talking about that. And we can spend some time on today's mastermind sort of musing on landing pages, how to leverage landing pages, important things to have on your landing pages, etc. I know we talked a little bit last week on the mastermind about that as well. The other thing I mentioned is, how do you drive eyeballs to your landing pages? And we live in this amazing world where we can do things online and we can do things offline. And we want to be driving traffic from both places. And right now we have all experienced the ability to be driven offline, online through these amazing things like QR codes. So if you've seen a QR code recently, the question is, are you leveraging them? And something that we all maybe have seen recently as a great example, I had just read an article about one of the most popular Super Bowl ads. So Super Bowl just recently happened last weekend. If you had an opportunity to watch it, I watched it for a lot of the ads, for the halftime entertainment, for all of those things. And one of the most popular ads was a QR code. That's all it was. It was a QR code bouncing around on the screen. And it was so popular and got so many scans, drove so many offline viewers online to the site that was using that QR code that the site literally couldn't handle the traffic volume. So the question is, are you leveraging QR codes in your business? And how are you leveraging them? And they're a great way to drive offline traffic and even online traffic to the landing pages that you've created. The other thing, and this is, I would say, more bleeding edge, it's starting to become early adopter phase of technology, and that's near field communication, the ability when you're close to somebody to share information just based on the proximity, to share it through a device like our tap cards and have those links pop directly up. Again, a great avenue to leverage when sharing offline. I think, to be honest, in my opinion, it's probably the most frictionless and simplest way to share information or to connect with somebody offline. So before I go anymore, what I want to do is I want to open this up for anybody who might have a question or a comment to add about any of those three topics: landing pages, QR codes, or near field communication, NFC. We call them our tap cards. And go ahead, either raise your hand, throw something in the comments, but let's make this discussion today interactive. I see a lot of familiar faces on the call. Yeah, Jeff, I see your hand go up. Go on ahead.
Let me unmute. Okay, so on the QR code thing, I know a lot of people, like when they're on the call, I can see them in the background.
Yep.
I probably haven't leveraged those as much as I should have. So here's my question. I don't know how many people have heard of a profile funnel, but it's a free way to get traffic on your Facebook page. And I'm in the process of actually redoing not my business page, but my personal profile, where your banner and stuff is done and there's links behind it. Anyway, it's some of the tactics that I learned on Facebook business pages. You now are seeing that done. And there's some really good trainings out there. My question is this: if I'm going to have this like promo about, whatever, coaching or easy marketing, click here to find out. And then would you recommend, ER, that I take the QR code of the specific card site that I want people to see and make that QR code in the corner of my Facebook profile as far as a good use of the QR code?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Jeff. And let's take a step back and just speak for a minute on just QR codes in general and then the specific implementation of them, because what you're talking about is leveraging QR codes online. And really the power of a QR code is when somebody uses their device to scan it. And we've all recently become accustomed to, every time we see these QR codes, pulling out our phone, opening up our camera, and starting to scan. So from the online perspective, Jeff, I see a lot of it, to your point, where people have a background maybe on web meetings like this, where they've got a QR code on their background image. Maybe you're talking about like on the Facebook page, etc. It will work well if the person who's viewing it has a device other than what they're viewing to be able to scan it. With that being said, I know Guy on one of the last trainings did talk about QR codes. If you actually I know iOS released this, I'm not 100% sure on Android, but if I'm on my iOS and I see a QR code come up, I can actually snap a screenshot of that, open that picture up in my photo reel, and it will become interactive and I can tap on those QR codes while being on the device. But understand that the big gap for using QR codes online, and I think there's a time and a place for them, is that you have to have another device in most cases to be able to scan it. So in the example that you're talking about, Jeff, with Facebook and having maybe a new background image that you're putting up, I think anywhere you can leverage links, QR codes, NFC, you should be doing it. You know what I mean? We are all, in a way, micro influencers. And if we can learn anything from those mega influencers out there, it's all about driving traffic. And the more you can lower the friction to get your traffic to go where you want it to go, to whatever landing page that is, whatever funnel that is, whatever business card that is, etc., you should do it. So it's not going to hurt to put it up there. But what I would recommend, Jeff, is using a campaign code so that you can monitor, is that getting scanned? because what you don't want to do is detract. That's the other thing. We talk about like content on pages. If you overwhelm the viewer, it's going to detract from it, right? I imagine a future where there's so many ads all around us. It's like, what am I doing? And it's like information overload. So really, there's a time and a place for it. But the best way to find out if this is the place for it is to do it in a way that's measurable. So create a campaign for that card, generate the QR code for that campaign, and then put that QR code in that background image or that banner or whatever you're using online, and then monitor those scans. Yeah. I still think a majority of use for QR codes is offline, right? Where I'm going to be in person, walking around, and I'm going to encounter something, a banner, a tabletop placard, or something that has a QR code on it, and I'm going to pull my device out of my pocket and I'm going to scan it. Yeah. So from the aspect of online, you just have to be like, it would be on my desktop. I've got my phone here, I've got my Zoom up, and I'm looking at everybody's profile. And if there's a QR code, sometimes I'll pull out my camera and scan it. If it's on the same device, it starts to get a little bit more tricky. So that's sort of the quick response to that. I don't know if anybody else has additional comments for Jeff on using QR codes online. Ruben, I see your hand up as well. And again, anybody who wants to raise their hand or comment in, go on ahead and unmute, and let's start the conversation.
Yes, Jeff and ER, with regard to QR codes, my particular business is art and networking, and of course, graphic design with Elify. And when I network, you're sitting in a room with about 50 people or 25 or whatever. And I notice everybody is on the table. There's nothing in front of them.
Yep.
So you create yourself a little sheet like this that you can manage. What I do is I color code my QR code, my Elify QR code, have my photo in there or my business. And it's just a simple card that you have in front of you, and it goes everywhere with you. So that opens up the dialogue. When people are interested, they come by and they bring out their camera, like ER says, and then you have a dialogue thereafter. The other business that I think is very, very important that people, it's been around for quite some time. I'm an affiliate for send out cards. Mm-hmm. So when I send someone a card of my art, guess what's in back? A color-coded QR code referencing that. And again, it's another exposure that you do outside of social media. It's in their home.
Yep. And I think, Ruben, to your point, and something we can all think about when we're talking about QR codes is anywhere you could put something. It could be a magnet that you stick on the back of your truck. It could be that virtual fishbowl when you're at an event. I've seen speakers, authors, coaches, when they're speaking to the masses and they're trying to get the word out to everybody in the audience, they'll put the QR code as part of their presentation, etc. So I really see QR codes still being, maybe it's 75% offline. And then, Jeff, what you're talking about is more bleeding edge stuff. Like, let's try and push it online, because I think we're going to see more of that sophistication. Like, I wouldn't be surprised, Jeff, if browsers, not unlike the new iOS push that has the ability for your camera photo reel to detect the QR codes within photos, I wouldn't be surprised if the browser updates in the future for Chrome, for Internet Explorer, if they're still around, for Safari, all of those, they start detecting QR codes on web pages and turning them into hyperlinks if they are already doing those things. So starting to lead in that direction, Jeff, I think is a good venture to go down, or a good path to go down. But I would measure it for sure. I would measure it.
Yeah. What I was also going to say is, like on emails, I can add links obviously into an email, but also it'd be kind of fun maybe to just have, like where you have your logo or whatever, have the QR code there too.
100%.
If they want to do this or they want to click, you give them both options. And that's what I was saying on the Facebook profile.
That's
they have
super
the link,
key.
But they also have the QR code.
I think what you're talking about, Jeff, is the biggest key. If you give people options, okay, this is all choose your own adventure for your viewer, and you're trying to lower the friction for them to take the next move forward on the journey or the path that you want to lead them down. So, Jeff, to your point, like, hey, I would put a button in my email. I would put a hyperlink at the bottom in my signature line. I would put a QR code in the signature block, and I would measure it all. what are or is my audience doing? Once you have an understanding of what your audience does, it's all about making the path so frictionless that it's easy for them to do it. But if you're going to require, like if I said, hey guys, go to this website and it's a huge long URL and I just write it on the board and everybody has to sit there and type it in, the friction goes way up. If I say, hey, everybody, here's a button, all you have to do is hit one click to do it, the friction goes way down. And that's really what it's about, is when we're leveraging things like QR codes, the NFC, et cetera, any path that you're doing to get somebody to follow that link, and again, online or offline, it's all about lowering the friction. Shelly, I saw your hand go up. Did you have something to add? Feel free to unmute. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say Facebook posting is pretty easy because the algorithms are just crap. So one day you might post something that everybody will see, and the next day you'll post something that nobody will see. I randomly will just post my QR code, and I'll always get at least 1 or 2 hits, and that's fine. But where you see the most traffic and where you're going to see the most bang for your buck these days is Instagram and TikTok. You make a TikTok reel or an Instagram reel, and honestly, they're so much more creative in what you can do with them too, as far as like editing and all that stuff. Make a couple of those and repost them over and over again in different places with your QR code. That's where you're going to see your traction, because Instagram and TikTok, especially TikTok, doesn't really have an algorithm thing. They see people looking at your stuff at all, and they just start like ramping it up. So for business people, TikTok is where it's at. That's
and I think this is great because there are all these sources of traffic out there, right? Like back in the day, the source used to be, you used to have a list and you used to have to email that list. You know what I mean? Then social media came along and everybody flooded into MySpace first or some of these other ones. Now you've got Facebook and everything else, and it's starting to explode. And every popular channel that amasses a community or an audience is a place where you can get in front of with your information. And then what you want to do is just be stepping back and thinking, okay, this is that audience. This is the goal of the landing page that I've created, and we've talked in the past about that. And this is going to be the conduit that connects that landing page to this audience. And it could be a hyperlink, it could be a QR code, it could be anything that's going to help lower that friction to pull people from that audience to where you want them to go. You know, lots of factors are going to play into that. I think on the Super Bowl ad, what was crazy is it was just a QR code. There was no text. I don't even know if there was any music. I think it changed colors and it bounced around on the screen, and they were just betting on curiosity. So, oh, I'm curious, what does that lead to? But there was no indication what it would have led to. It could have led to anything. It led to some cryptocurrency exchange, and they enrolled a bunch of users and were giving away free money essentially. And curiosity got those people involved. Yours, you might want to build some context around, when I scan this, where is it going to go? You know what I mean? Ruben, to Ruben's point, if it's a placard that I take with me anytime I'm going to a networking event or a business networking event, et cetera, I can set it in front of me. Maybe I'm a person who goes to trade shows and fairs, and I have actually a booth and I want to have a placard there that people can scan. What I love about the QR code is it doesn't require any thumb damage. And when I say thumb damage, it means them pulling up their device and typing something in. You know what requires thumb damage? If you put anything in print for somebody to read, they then have to take the action of taking that information off of this, visualizing it, and keying it in somewhere, whether it's to type in your number, whether it's to type in your URL, whether it's to type in your email address. So what we're talking about is just how do we lower that friction, and how do we connect with those eyeballs that are either passing by in real life, right, offline, or online in those communities that we're posting in. And then what are the calls to action? And I know, Jeff, we've talked on earlier calls about, you know, what is that call to action? What is that message? If I've got 1 second of somebody's attention, how am I going to make sure that we capitalize on that and that they know what they're going to get when they take that action? Otherwise, you're just playing purely on curiosity, but even that alone can pull traffic, as we've referenced from that Super Bowl ad.
Yeah. as we were saying, I'm sitting here with my hat on and I'm thinking on the back of this, I could have a QR code that parents or people could come up behind me and it takes them to the, Waukee Tennis website or whatever, or my
100%.
t-shirt that says,
I was just thinking about the
my
t-shirt
brand, and then on the back and people, but here's the thing. How many of you guys are familiar with Hy-Vee grocery stores up in Iowa? They're getting all the big stars, Mark Wahlberg and all these stars to come on these really super cool commercials and Mahomes and all them. Their whole big campaign right now is nothing more than scan the code. They have the big QR code wherever every commercial is nothing more than teaching us to scan the code. So to your point, all these different things, whether it's your name badge, your t-shirt, whatever, people are learning because there's a comment in here. I don't know if you see it, ER, maybe I have a sample. What is a QR code? I was a little confused about how it all worked before. I've got one pulled up right now. If you want to, how easy it is to grab your QR code.
And let's talk about it for a second, because if you're on this call and you're not aware of what QR codes, I held one up earlier. Okay. It's on the back of this tap card right here. It looks like a futuristic barcode. Okay. And what it allows is a lot more information than that traditional. Remember the horizontal line barcode that we used to see? Well, we still see on all the grocery store items. This is like the futuristic version of that. It contains a lot more information than just the number that a barcode would relate. So this could have information that links to a URL, which is our purpose is having people scan this and drive it somewhere. But you can embed a ton of information on QR codes. So that's what it is. Most people, and again, we've been using, I shared this the other day. This was one of my first business cards. I haven't used a business card in 10 years. So talk about being an early adopter. This one doesn't even link to anything anymore, but that was my business card where I wanted to get people a simpler way than typing in my information, literally have it be a one scan thing. So QR codes are these little codes. If you have your Shuffle account, you can actually generate these QR codes when you generate the link, the hyperlink for your card. And you can generate it for the card itself. You can generate them for a contact. You can generate them for a campaign, all within Shuffle. And when somebody scans this, it will go directly to that Shuffle card that you've created. So very powerful. And then we're talking about how do we use these? Because here's the reality. If we went back 7 years, right? 2015. How many of you were pulling out your phone, scanning QR codes? Maybe a fraction of the people who are on this call were even like QR codes. I think I know what that is. Then the pandemic happens, right? And now we're in this touchless environment and the whole world gets thrust forward into understanding what these things are. Okay. Think about, again, I'm a big picture person. Think about when the internet came about, right? And it was like, what's a website? What's a URL? Now we all know what the URL is, right? HTTP:/ the website address .com, .io, whatever. Okay, we're in this early adopter phase that's shifting into the growth phase for QR codes. Think about that, okay? That's just like how the website phase was online, right? Think about email addresses. Step back. This is a 40-year-old technology. My kids have email addresses right now just so that they can have their profiles and accounts on all their little learning apps and things like that. I didn't get my first email address probably till I was in high school. You know what I mean? When did you get your first email address? And I remember there was this Today Show thing when they were talking about the internet. I got to find the clip and I'll post it in social here where they're sitting there musing on like, what is that little a symbol with the circle around it? I just don't get it, right? Think about that growth curve, right? Oh, now I've got an email address. Now everybody's starting to get email addresses. Oh my gosh, the world is getting email addresses. And now, in my opinion, email is falling out of favor. How much spam do we all get? How much are we wise to what those subject lines are? And we know how to read into, oh, wow, that one seems a little spammy. I'll skip that or put it in and mark it as spam or whatnot. We're all aware of opening that up and going through. So this is now in the growth phase, everybody, right? Early adopters have come on and been using them for several years. If you were in, the Asias, it was massively big well before it was big in the United States. Now it's a global thing. And so if you can ride that wave and leverage it, you're going to benefit in accomplishing what its intended purpose is, which is to allow somebody to scan and quickly get to where you want them to go. So hopefully that answers the question on what a QR code is. Now, here's the other reality. We haven't talked much about it. The NFC technology, near field communication. Why? It certainly has specific applications. I don't think it's as widely beneficial as a QR code, but I do think it's one of the best values to go out and share information directly to a device. So if you're going to be in person, the benefit of QR is you create a magical experience. Somebody scans it and something comes up, right? And I remember when I first started using QR codes, that was sort of that magical experience. You can quickly connect, you can scan anything. Wow. Now it's becoming more common and we're in that growth phase. This is in the early adopter phase. It's the same thing. Hey, you don't even have to open up your camera on your phone. Let me see your phone. Boop, and you touch it and information comes up. Again, what we're doing with new technology is creating that experience for somebody that drives them where we want them to go. So for NFC, the applications are massively offline. You're not going to be using this technology online at all. Whereas this, the QR code stuff, is completely applicable both offline and, Jeff, to your point earlier, online in specific scenarios like web meetings, like anytime somebody might have a device with them while they're looking at web pages, email footers or social posts, things like that. But what you don't want to do is create more friction. So in my opinion, if you're online, you're better off using some type of hyperlink or button. Yeah. Any other, go ahead, Jeff. Did you have something to add?
Well, I was just going to give it a real life example of yesterday. Obviously, I'm down here in Alabama. I go into town and play tennis, and these are guys that I just know their names, right? And I was drinking a drink. It isn't one of my big things that I promote, but I was drinking a health drink, just like you're doing right now. And he said, Jeff, what are you drinking there? Well, I didn't want to go into a big spiel about the 3 different scoops of this, that, and the other that I'm drinking. I could have just said, you got your phone? Because and then there was other topics that came up about what I do, and they'd say, man, I'd love to hear about that. And it's like, oh, you'll have to send me some information. And I could have said, you got your phone, and I could have been better prepared to just either give them my QR code or whatever. And, instead of, oh, here, let me get your phone number and this and that, that's kind of cumbersome sometimes. But yes, that is, I could have done it probably 5 times yesterday with the group I played tennis with.
Well, and I think that's the thing we all want to step back and think about. How can we leverage technology to support us in connecting with our customers? It starts out with, what are you going to share with your customer, right? What are those landing pages going to be about? And what information are you going to have on that landing page? So to Jeff's point earlier, he could have built a landing page about the energy drink or supplement that he was consuming. So that way, when somebody asks him, he's prepared. Here's some information. I don't want to sit here and give you a diatribe on why I love it. Just check out this information. I got it all right here. Or, hey, it'd be great to connect with you. Here's my business card. Or, hey, I'm doing this. This is what I do. Let me connect you with it. And then, send it out. And if you're well prepared for those interactions, you can capitalize on that interaction. You know what I mean? If you don't have a way to connect with somebody, you're reverting back to more archaic analog means of doing it. Hey, give me your information and I'll send you something, or I'll email you something. Heck, even at this point, I'll text you something is starting to get dated, because now a lot of the carriers are filtering out those texts if you include information on them when you're first interacting. It's like a modern day spam filter for text messaging. So if you're on this call, I see Shelly just sort of closed her camera down and I see her QR code came back up. Anybody who wants to practice that, Rose, you could actually pull out your camera and scan Shelly's QR code and see where that links.
Yeah. Hey, ER, we have a question here in the chat about the NFC in phones as far as the toggle switch and the older phones and the newer phone. Can you give us an overview on that so that when we do engage somebody with our tap card, we shorten that friction?
Absolutely. And this is a great point, Ruben. Thank you for bringing it up. And thank you for whoever posted that, Rose, for the question again. These NFC cards, near field communication, are very powerful, but they're also still in that early adopter phase. So we're seeing more and more of the hardware devices, things like iPhone or iOS and Android, starting to come online and include NFC reading technology. So that started to come about right around iPhone 7 or so, 8 at least. And now we're on iPhone 13. And Apple, for those of you who don't track it, they just announced, that they are integrating NFC for more of their payment systems with their digital wallets. So this is something that these technology companies are betting on big as the future of how people connect or share information back and forth, NFC. But if you do have an older device, let's say an iPhone 7 is probably going to be a question mark, an iPhone 6 all the way down to like the original iPhone, most likely is not going to have this technology embedded within it. No different than not all cameras used to be able to scan the QR code, but nowadays pretty much every camera on every mobile device is going to allow you to scan a QR code. In fact, I've even noticed on Chrome in the address bar, when you go to the share menu, you can click on that. It's like a box with an upward arrow, and you can start to see the QR code as an option for a link instead of just the hyperlink for sharing. So definitely in its early adopter phase, definitely not all devices. I think you're going to see a lot more Android devices just because it's based on Google technology that are more equipped to interact with the near field communication. But with that being said, moving forward, I expect all new devices to be equipped with NFC reading technology. If you do have a device that has the NFC embedded, then when you're using our Shuffle app, it's literally 1 or 2 clicks to read or write these within the app. And I think that's really what we're trying to do over here at Elify, is we want to elevate your business. We want to simplify your life. And it's all about making this technology accessible to the masses. So if you have our technology downloaded on your phone, if you're using the mobile app, it literally is, I select what landing page or what card I want it to go to. I select a gear, I write to NFC, and I tap it. And we just announced this week, even with the QRs on the back of these cards, I can also write the QR code when I'm writing the NFC card so that both of those links match up. And that goes back to that experience that we were talking about. And Ruben mentioned having a plan when you go into those interactions. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that Jeff needed to know that he was going to be drinking this health drink as he walked into this event, but let's assume he was. He had a plan in place. He might have written already the information to the landing page on the NFC and the QR code. So that way, as he's slowly doing that sort of, hey, it's like the Pepsi is showing right there, like you see in the movies, and he's drinking, and the person sitting next to him goes, well, what is that? Jeff then goes, hey, let me share this with you. And if he hits a device that's not NFC enabled, he could have turned it around and said, well, just scan this. And you've got 2 ways to share that connect to the same information, and both are measurable. And I think that's the key. All right, any other questions out there? We're about halfway through our allotted time. We don't have to consume the whole time, but I do want to focus on landing pages, QR codes, and near field communication. And I think we should all be listening up because, again, it costs $7 million for a 30-second ad on the Super Bowl. And the company that had one of the best ads out there, they chose to do one thing. And I saw a lot of high production value commercials, right? A lot of the auto companies, they got these celebrities to do all of these commercials, tons and tons of celebrities, spending millions of dollars on the ad itself in addition to the ad placement. And this company just chose to have a QR code bouncing around on the screen for people to scan. That's super powerful. We should be taking note of what trends are happening in the marketplace, because if you're not leveraging this, you are missing out. The same thing with the NFC. And if you don't have the NFC card, if you log into your Shuffle account, there's a banner at the top that says Get NFC, and you can order one or multiple of these cards. I had a question come up the other day. How many of these do I need? The answer is you really only need one. You can write this thing over and over and over again as many times as you want. You can tap it against a device or scan it. an unlimited number of times. But if you run multiple businesses, have multiple brands, multiple landing pages, sometimes it's good to have multiples. This one, I even put a little mark on it so I know this is my demo card when I'm showing how this works. Ruben's got his, he's got it in a little lanyard that he keeps on here. And I've seen people come up, they're so familiar with QR codes that when they see you wearing one, and Jeff, this goes back to your statement, get a t-shirt, put your QR code on the back of the t-shirt. All of a sudden you're going to be walking down the street and your phone's going to be going off while people are scanning you, or you're at the coffee shop working on stuff and you go to get your order and all of a sudden your phone is going off. I see people with this in their lanyard, and you'll see people starting to walk up to them with their phones already out, ready to start scanning those QR codes. And I've seen and heard, like Kathy gave the example where she's like, I saw somebody have their phone out and they're getting ready to scan my QR code. And I almost went up and I blocked it. And I said, no, let me do you one better. And they took their lanyard and just tapped the phone instead. And it was like, whoa, I thought I was going to open up my phone, hit my camera, scan your QR code, and we were going to have that whole experience. And you one-upped me by going out and just tapping it straight to my phone. How did you do that? Again, this is that wow factor that new technology can bring to any business.
And I say, if you have a QR code and you're putting it on the back, put it on the front too.
Everywhere. Again, whether it's a hat, a t-shirt, a placard, a lanyard, we are looking for ways to connect with people. So when Jeff was talking about testing all of these areas, that's it. You put it everywhere. It's the shotgun approach in marketing, right? You put it everywhere and you measure and you see what sticks. Jeff, I know you got a comment, so feel free.
You just opened up my mind. I mean, I know you guys know I'm in a lot of things, but I'm an ambassador for Head Sports.
Yep.
They don't pay me, but I get all this free cool stuff from Head. And my job is nothing more to promote pickleball, believe it or not. And then, but I made an Elify head card. I told the head rep, I said, if you make me an ambassador, I'm a digital marketer. So I went in so I have a Head Elify card. Now my Head pickleball paddles, when I'm out playing, I'm going to have the QR code right on my paddle and hold it up, right? Or the butt of my tennis racket to, whatever. And so each thing that I have that represents, I coach high school tennis. So this QR code to my Elify card, I have 100 cards. So but yeah, now my mind is saying, why don't I just take that QR code and put it on everything that applies to that particular part of my life?
100%, 110%. I mean, I don't think it can be stressed anymore. Look, we have all these things that we do. And we can connect people with the things that we do by using all of this technology. And if we're not taking advantage of it, and Jeff, I love it. I'm sure I'm going to give this example, and then I'm going to tell you, Jeff, what I just thought of when you were talking about pickleball and when you were talking about
Head Sports will be like, dude, we want what you're doing for our whole company.
Well, think about this. I live in Colorado. This is the hometown of Crocs, right? Those foamy little shoes that are so comfortable. I have a pair myself, and they're like my favorite things. And there was a company out of Boulder, just north of me, that created these little things that go in the holes of Crocs. You know what I mean? And now you see them, they're little like, I forget what they call them, but
they're little charms that you can.
Yeah, like a charm, right? Okay, so it was a family out of Boulder, right, in Colorado that created these charms that go into the Crocs. And they just had all of these ones. This was even before they started licensing from all of these brands. And Crocs as an organization ended up purchasing that company. I think it was some $10 million deal for whoever was creating these little things. And here's Jeff telling me about this butt of this tennis racket that, think about it, there's going to be a company out there. It may be Jeff, where he says, look, I'm going to create those for people and you can buy them and you can stick them in your tennis rackets so that your tennis racket becomes a marketing piece. Or I'm going to sell these pickleball rackets and it's going to be the thing that you can go out and market, right? Jeff, I know it's first mover advantage. Get out there and start using it. Or the first person who says, I remember when Bitcoin first came out and they were doing like the World Series or something like this. And there was somebody behind the batter's box in the stands holding up a big banner. And it didn't say anything other than a QR code. And it gave their like wallet address. And I was blown away. It hit the news that that person, all these people on television saw that guy behind the banner holding this thing. And it was like, give me some beer money. And it had a QR code. And all these people scanned it and just gave him money. Total strangers. Again, this is the power of the ability to have some influence and connect people to the information you want to share. And it's important for us within this community and within this group to think about all of those ideas on where this is applicable. And basically anything that anybody can see, like probably not to do this, but I'm surprised we don't see more billboards out on the roads with QR codes. Now, I would caution against that because you probably shouldn't be pulling out your phone, scanning as you're driving by. The fact that half of people are probably texting anyways, they're like, oh, I've already got it out. Let me scan this. It's got a recent accident. Here's the lawyer. And then you're crashing into somebody. But the reality is a t-shirt, a hat, a billboard, a flyer, a placard, a fishbowl, anywhere, the Jumbotron behind you with all of the information you're presenting could have a QR code. What I love about QR is you can interact with a ton of people at one time. If I'm interacting in Shuffle and I'm just shuffling around talking to a lot of people at a networking event, that's one-to-one interaction. If I'm talking to somebody and there's a group of people standing around me, and Jeff, to your point, I got a QR code on the back of the shirt and it says Elify, elevate your business, simplify your life, and there's the QR code. There are going to be people behind me scanning that because I'm not talking to them and they want to talk with me or they want to see what I'm doing. You can do that for every single thing you stand for. And this is what I think is the future of entrepreneurship in a way, is we are all micro influencers. Jeff, you mentioned it. I've got my hand in a million different projects. That's how you do it. You go out. I had a mentor once and he said, ER, I'm going to show you how to build a website that makes you money online. And I listened to him and he showed me how to build a website that made money online. And it was really simple. And he goes, however, ER, I will caution you with this. If you're trying to make one website that makes you $1 million, I am not your guy. I've never made a website that's earned me more than, let's say, $5,000 in a month. And he goes, however, the problem is I've got 1,000 of those websites. Think about that. Multiple streams of things that we all do where we aggregate the business that comes through those channels to make whatever we want to make. That's the future out there. And we can all be plugging into that if we create the content or create the landing pages. And if we have the right URLs, the right QR codes, or the right NFC to share that information with people. Jeff, saw that hand go up again. Come on.
Just a quick question. Guy, where's your QR code on your whiteboard?
Right. Hey.
There's some cool things that we're looking at potentially doing.
You know how to get a hold of him.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone should have my contact. You should be connected with me in Shuffle. If you don't have my cell phone, it's 303-476-0238. So that's how confident I am. If you need to get a hold of me, text me. I'll get back to you. But I think it's exciting to see that our network continues to enjoy these lives and that we get value out of them. I know ER really enjoys these. I do as well. So just glad I could jump on for a little bit today.
Yeah. Well, Guy, Tease is my middle name, so get used to it.
Hey, I'm the only one who posted my business card in the chat, everybody. So if you haven't had an opportunity, you want to connect with me, my link is right in there. Feel free to post yours in there as well. This can be a little mini networking event if we want to make that happen. Again, we all have to step back and think there's opportunities to use this technology all around us. And it's only when we get together as a community and start talking about the different applications of this where our wheels start turning, where you're like, oh, wow, I could build a landing page for that, or I could have a link for that, or I could use a QR code for that. I mean, guys, start talking and yours is going to pop up for everybody to see.
So I know you probably have talked about the QR codes, the tap card, everything in training today. I know Tuesday, ER, I didn't get a chance to stay on the whole training with Kathy, but there was a question posed that you were answering when I had to jump off. And I believe it was Brittany that had asked, I go into a networking event and I get 3 different types of people. I get someone who really likes this tap card. I get someone who, I don't know about the tap, but I like the QR. And then someone's like, I don't trust this. I'll give me a paper business card. And the answer to going into those, it made me think a little bit about this, is we all know these now, right? These QR codes. We've been utilizing them for years. We had it developed, I guess, in the foresight before 2020 happened, making sure that people can utilize these. Now, people are so accustomed to just pulling the phone out and just start scanning QRs. You probably already talked about the QR code from the Super Bowl commercial. I mean, it broke Coinbase's website just from the aspect of everyone pulling their phone out and trying to capture that thing bouncing across the screen. QR codes are old technology, right? They've been around for at least 15 years now. This is one of the newer technologies. Granted, it's been around for probably 4 or 5 years, but no one's hearing about these types of things. There's so much happening in technology. I know we talk, ER and I we do a lot of research internally to see what the bleeding edge, the new types of things are happening. There's things right now that are happening that seem they're so, at the moment, so big. There's so much money happening in it, yet 99% of the people don't know about it. But 10 years from now, everyone's going to be talking about it. 100%. So being able to bring technology to someone, and I have that same type of conversation, is this is the newest technology. This is where we are going. Technology is here to stay. There's computers all over the world that, from a decentralization, crunch different types of material that don't take no human effort, that they're running a network that is massive. Right? So the question, this is new technology. Someone doesn't want to tap it, show them the QR code. Somebody wants a hard code, say, sorry, I don't like spending that fee. Yeah. I don't know what happens to my paper cards. If I hand it to you and you push the call button, is it going to call me? Right. Are these types of things of value to me, talking to other people in a networking event or environment, where they're maybe even just at the grocery store communicating? If they're so hard pressed, I remember Brittany saying she had a guy who was hard pressed, he wanted a business card. They're like, I'm sorry, I don't have one. What I will do is I'll write my name, email, and phone number on a piece of paper, and I'll hand that to you. That's just as good as a business card. Or if you like business cards, give me yours. I'm going to take it, I'm going to scan it, and I'm going to say, what do you want me to do with it now? Do you want me to throw it in the trash or give it back to you? Because you want your paper card for is to potentially put it in your Rolodex. Are you doing things with those? There's so many people from a paper card, and we're not in a movement to try to kill them. We know there's a time and place for them, but technology has made it so much more advanced, where you can get your tracking, you can get your information, you can know analytically who's leaning forward, so I can really work smarter instead of harder. So many people, everyone, if there's a secret, and there's no secret to success, it's just working. Yeah. But the secret that everyone always wants to talk about is there's got to be some type of easy button. There's got to be something. No, it's just working smarter. It's working smarter.
Well, guide to that working smarter thing, and I know we've got some comments on all the stuff that you just talked about. That's what it is. I saw what Shelly was posting on here. I mean, do you guys remember dial-up internet? That was the first internet that we had. We got our first home computer, and then I had to get the phone cord, and I had to plug it into that modem, and you got that, and then you got one line of a picture at a time, and you just leave the room, and then you come back 30 minutes later to see if it downloaded, guys. Now, could you imagine if you said, that's the pinnacle, that is it, I'm going to use that, you know what I mean? Or, do you remember AOL Online, right? You get a CD-ROM. I don't even have a slot in my computer for a CD-ROM anymore. What we need to do is stay current with technology. Technology is moving so fast nowadays that it's hard to stay current, especially if you're a small business. So it's important to be joining communities, looking and keeping your eyes sort of scanning the horizon for that bleeding edge technology, and then adopting it when you can. And some of this new technology, it's for the big boys, right? It costs an arm and a leg. But one of the things that we're passionate here at Elify is we want to make it accessible for everybody. When we see something cutting edge coming out, and Guy, I remember, I'm going to bring up an old technology. Give me 1 second. If you've been around with Elify for a while, you might remember these. I don't know if any of you have one of these, had one of these, an amazing technology, right? You'd open it up, there'd be a little beacon inside. We had them on our keychain. I saw people sticking them underneath tables at restaurants, at the airport, everywhere. It served its purpose for that time. We don't sell them anymore. Why? Google cut it off. They said, whoa, this is so spammy. You're just advertising to everybody at once. And that's true. That's what the early adopters did. And those who jumped on that technology and leveraged it got to see all of the benefit of that technology while it existed. Now, here's what I think why these and these are going to stick around for a while. Unlike this was one to many without their permission. And this is what most of the world wants to avoid. I don't want you to just throw stuff on or in front of me without me asking. I want to have a relationship. I want to know what's going on. I want to do business with people I know, like, and trust. So when you do one-to-one sharing, right? Like I'm going to come up and I'm going to have a conversation with Jeff or with Ruben or with Shelly or with Rose, and I'm going to tap their physical device because they've given me permission. Now I've got, again, a connection. We have some credibility, and I'm driving that conversation or going or taking them where we want them to go. And I think that's the big thing here when we're talking about lasting technology. It's all about making sure we're doing things that connect with the people we want to do business with. Here, I think the only caveat to that is this is scannable by the masses, but I'm still going to do it in a way where, like Jeff was talking about, it's on my hat or my shirt or my placard or my billboard or my lanyard. So people know it is mine. You know what I mean? And then they're choosing to pull out their device and to scan it. It's not being forced. It's not like their phone jumps out, their camera turns on, and it automatically scans the QR codes. So there is some sort of what we would call opt-in to make that work. And I think that's the threshold for technology that's going to stick around for a while. It's two people choosing to opt into that information.
Yeah, just back to the tennis thing. Like we have a scoreboard at our tennis courts where we should have a QR code on the big board. And now people walk by and all of a sudden we're not there. The coaches aren't there, but people are scanning and getting information about our program stuff. I did have Guy, I got this. There's some copy that I wrote, and I won't share the screen, but just let me read this because I think this is my lead in to a webinar that I'm doing. It's the free web classes for marketers, freelancers, entrepreneurs. You ready? Sick and tired of missing out on hidden trends, hot opportunities, and getting left behind in the new virtual economy. And then I was fighting between two words. And now after this tapping, guess what my name of my webinar is? How to tap into 3 wildly profitable hidden trends. Blah, blah, blah. I won't get but basically Elify is part of, I have 3 key points, and inside of number 2, when I start talking about done for you, built for you, that's where I enter into my Elify pitch in my webinar and now that you've given me more ideas, I'm actually going to have the tapping word rather than capitalize. I'm going to stick with tap because of this conversation.
Well, and this is what I love. Okay. I want to talk about as we round out today's mastermind. And first of all, thank you everybody for participating. For those of you who had a question, who provided a comment, a tip, an idea for the rest of the viewers today, I want to thank you because that's what this community is all about, 100%. The second thing I want to talk about is a lot of what we've talked about on today's video has focused on how you leverage this technology for yourself, your brand, your business, your products, your services, whatever it is you're involved in. I mean, Jeff, I almost want to go down to my local tennis. We got like 8 courts sitting right outside the neighborhood here. And I know they have a way to book those courts, but I have no clue how. If they had a thing I could scan, I could be scheduling lessons, booking time, doing all of that type of stuff. And wow, that's new business that didn't exist before, right? How we can leverage this stuff for ourselves. Here's the thing that I'm passionate about. And this is why Guy and I do what we do. It's not about us. I'm not talking about, I didn't give one example really how I leverage the QR code or how I leverage TAP. I want to show other people how they can access this technology. I think that's the true value of this community, something that I know Jeff is passionate about. He wants to actually share with others how they can get on the gravy train of leveraging this technology, on how to leverage Shuffle, on how to leverage QR codes, on how to leverage the NFC, on how to leverage copywriting skills or other funnels, things like that, all of that within his wheelhouse that he wants to make available to other people. And that's the mission that we are on here at Elify, right? We want to bring this technology to the masses. Look, just because you're using a QR code doesn't mean the other guy who's walking the other way shouldn't have one for his hat or his t-shirt or the back of his truck. And in fact, one of the things I love the most is that you've got an opportunity to help us take this message to the masses, help us help other people. Because when more and more small businesses, heck, medium-sized businesses, large businesses are adopting this technology, more and more it becomes mature in the marketplace, and we can all capitalize on that community that we create. That's the big thing for us is I don't want 2 people to know about this. I want 2 million people to know about this, because if you're that small business and you're the CEO and the trash man and you're the marketer and you're doing everything in your business, you don't need to be wasting your efforts doing old hat. You don't need to be wasting your efforts. Oh man, I need to get an email marketing campaign because that's been around for 40 years. No, you want to leverage the bleeding edge technology. And we are in a community that makes that bleeding edge technology accessible to everybody in a way that's not going to break the bank, in a way that's measurable so that you know what works and what doesn't, and in a way that produces results, right? I want to connect somebody to information about who I am, what I do, and how I can help them. And that's my call to action for everybody who participated today is think of one person or one business or one place that could leverage the technology that we've talked about today. For Jeff, maybe it's the local tennis club. For Rose, maybe it's the local restaurant or cafe who's trying to get people to view their menu, even though they didn't know the first thing about creating a QR code for touchless scanning. We can now open the door up for everybody else to come in and start leveraging this technology, and we can bring this to the world. That's really where our heart lies here at Elify. So guys, in closing, I want to thank every single one of you again for just giving a little bit of your time, an hour today, to plug into this information. I hope that you learned at least one gold nugget that you can apply to your own brand, your own business, your own product or service that's going to help you reach more customers. And we'll be doing our next call. It's Friday with the Founders with Guy and I. That's probably my favorite call of the week, where we get a chance to connect as a community and really talk about all things Elify, what we're doing, how people are succeeding, what we've got in the pipeline. That'll be Friday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. So I hope I can see you guys on that call as well. Thank you, everybody, for participating. We'll take care and see you on the next call. Thanks, everybody.